More Than Culture is the brand. This is the podcast. Kamal the Secret Genius.
Remo Rock.
Tyler Chronicles.
Ronnie Jordan.
Yes, indeed. It's on you, Ronnie.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
we got a special guest in the house, man, running for Fulton County Sheriff, ATL Zone, Patrick Labat.
Patrick.
Hey! Labat, I said it correct.
You did.
That's the first time for anyone listening. That's the first time you said it correct.
And me and Remo had the pleasure of doing his fundraiser at my lawyer James Walker's house, and we just got to chop it up with him. He chopped it up with my mom, who's an ex-police officer. So we kind of rock with his policies. We like what he's doing, especially with prison reform and what he's doing to. When guys get out of jail, he's got like stuff in place so you won't go back to jail, which is where we start a lot of this at. So I'm gonna let you take it away, sir.
Actually, before you even start, no, that's okay, because I like to do this for people. I guess a lot of people know what people are, a sheriff or a congressperson, but they don't know their duties, what their job. So how would you explain to us what a sheriff's duties are?
So, great question. So, constitutionally, given by the state, the sheriff technically is responsible for three things. Serving warrants, protecting the courts, as well as running the jail. Now, that's constitutional. The basic tenet for any law enforcement is public safety.
Period.
And so what we need to do is figure out how, from my perspective, and let me preface this. I've worked in law enforcement for 30 years.
Right.
So I started working 11 at night to 7 in the morning at Clark Atlanta and going to school during the day at Clark Atlanta University.
There you go now.
So,
You was public safety at Clark?
No,
he was going.
I was working at the jail 11 at night to 7 in the morning.
Okay.
But he was gone.
While you was at Clark.
And then going to school.
Hey, he was finding a way of making
I was
one.
about to
Baby.
say, we might.
had a beef, though.
I was about to say we might
did
have
my
had. If
semester,
you was public safety at Clark, we may have had some run-ins from 99 to 03.
No.
They made up rubber bullets over there.
That Spelman campus to be shooting rubber bullets at people.
over there.
I get it, but I'm no stranger to hard work. So for 30 years, technically 20, then I was promoted or appointed to chief by Mayor Reed in 2010.
Okay.
Right.
And so one of the things I always say is we got to come to the table and have a conversation about what we need.
Yes, indeed.
Because when I first started, it was every Friday night was a high school reunion, right? I'd walk in the back door and everybody I knew was there. So it wasn't, Officer Labat. It was, hey, Pat, all my friends were locked up,
Right.
And I made no bones about it, right? I'm very fortunate because of some things I did right or maybe I did wrong. I could have been just as easily locked up. Right?
That could be anybody at this table.
That's anybody at this table. Absolutely. Times were different then, right? Because I did some of the wildest things as well.
Of course.
But I got appointed chief, and one of the things I always really focus on is what can we do differently for us. And as Ronnie mentioned earlier, one of the pinnacle points in my career is we started not just a junior correction officer program, right? We started a junior correction officer program that was aimed at not straight A students, right? I graduated, thank you, Lordy. Let me be clear.
Right. Thank you, Lordy.
Yeah, by the skin of my teeth. But I wanted to lean in toward our kids that had issues reading, right? I'm dyslexic, and make no bones about it.
Come on now, Pip. There it is. There it is.
So you hear people talk about...
I changed the I to a T quick. I don't know why. It was like,
leave it out.
tight.
Leave it out. Yeah.
Or leave it out. You don't even see that thing.
So, and you're absolutely right. But I came up with a time where teachers weren't as sensitive or not as knowledgeable about it.
Right.
Oh, you'll figure it out kind of thing.
Right.
But for me, it was how do we put a pause in that school-to-prison pipeline? And so we sent officers over to help read with kids, right? We started a junior correction officer program. For me, it wasn't a scared straight program. It was an opportunity to take kids to Hartsfield-Jackson, to take kids to Charlie Brown Airport. And the way I put it is as you see these planes lift off, you see their hopes and dreams lift off and go skyward as well. But we also took them through the courts, took them through the jails, but we also took them to the morgue. Right?
There you
so
go.
this is about choices for us.
Yeah.
And then the reentry program Ronnie talked about, for me, it was how do we give people a true second or third chance? And so we partnered with the State Department of Corrections, Urban League of Greater Atlanta, and really instead of leaving with $25 in a bus ticket, you got a group of young men that have earned, right? They have to have 15 months left on their sentence, nonviolent, let me be clear.
Yeah.
And instead of leaving with $25 in a bus ticket, they leave with $20,000, $30,000 in the bank. They leave with a job already. See, we had to become a certified transitional center. And what that means is, in order to
You said they leave with how much in the bank?
$20,000 or $30,000 in the bank over 15 months, right?
Untaxed?
So,
But still,
no, it's taxed.
that's
Let me be clear.
amazing.
Well, see, here's the
Can I get into your program?
I'm saying, how can I bank 30,000 in 15 months right quick?
No, let me be clear. Let me provide a little more clarity.
Oh no,
They actually become city employees.
Right.
And so the unintended consequence is because it's a second or third chance for them, and they're fixing water meters or installing fire hydrants, they work harder than some of their team members there.
Yeah.
Right.
They get the overtime. In some instances, again, an unintended consequence because of overtime and the things that they were able to do. Some cases, they made more money than my officers, right? But for them, it was a second chance. You don't have to go out. See, the system is set up so that after you serve your time, you get out. The onus is on you to find a job.
Right.
And then you have to go fill out an application, say, have you ever been arrested?
Yeah, because they need your body back in that jail too. Though.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a revolving
our
door.
goal was to prevent that.
Right.
And so I tell folks they start working on their career while they're locked up. And to have a grown man say, Chief, listen, I never thought I'd be able to buy my daughter a prom dress, right? Well, let's take it a step further. We'll get you a pass. You take her out to eat and show her how she's supposed to be treated,
There you go.
right? So for us, it was about changing lives.
Right.
And then the passion continues to grow. Now, I retired or rewired in December because, again, I started early, started working early, but I also, at 30 years, had to look at what I want to do next and how we have a larger impact on the criminal justice community. And look, I've been called everything that the officers on the front line have been called.
Right.
Sell out, all the rest of it that comes with law enforcement. But what I have to remind people is you got to have a seat at the table. If you don't have a seat at the table, we can't make any of these changes.
Right.
And so the pinnacle in this case is the sheriff's office. And the sheriff, there are 159 counties in the state of Georgia, all right? And there are 159 sheriffs. And the sheriff is considered the high sheriff. And so this is that opportunity for us to change what law enforcement looks like. We got 6 days now to do it.
Yes, indeed.
And remind people we need to get out and vote and make this happen.
So, prison reform is a hot topic right now, and one of the main tenets of that is the cash bail system.
Right.
Like, what are your thoughts on that system as it currently stands?
Right.
So here's the thing. I would tell anybody sitting at this table, when Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms brought the cash bail reform to the forefront, after having had a cash bail system in place for almost 28 years at the time,
Right.
I was proud to be able to lead that effort. Right. And I'll tell you, because I can, right, it does not happen without my team. We put our team at the forefront of that conversation. Matter of fact, I had a city council member say today, Marcia Overstreet, say today, you did your job so well, you worked yourself out of a job. And so what we did was change how we did business. And so when we were housing people more, we just processed them, and everybody coming in, as long as it's nonviolent or the threat of violence and DUI, you got a chance to sign yourself out. Now, if you want it for something, we can't help you. You know, you have to go see a judge. If you got an open case, you have to go see a judge. So I think from the perspective that people should not sit in jail simply because they're poor is really the foundation which sets that up.
But what's the other option? So if you don't have a cash bail system, then you should have in place a...
Well, it's not an option in terms. This is the best option. Now, I didn't totally believe in it. Let me understand. Let me be honest. I didn't believe in it because I had to change my mindset.
What did you believe in?
And so I believed in what I was ingrained in, and that was you pay your bail, and if you couldn't pay your bail, you go to court. The judge then sentenced you most of the time, right, to 2 or 3 days, or gave you time served. In this case, it gave us an opportunity to restructure how we do business. And now, it is yet to be proven if it works, because some judges will tell you half the people that sign their own bond don't come back to court. Right, which means they're going to get caught again, and then ultimately won't have a bond, and ultimately may have to serve more time for not coming back to court. That's yet to be determined.
That sounds like a lesser intended consequence than someone that committed a crime that's poor that can't get out of jail because they don't have the money to get
I
out.
get that.
That sounds
And-
like a
and-
way
and
better.
we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But what I don't want, and we do a really good job in Atlanta of it, is educating those individuals when they get out.
Right.
Right. Making sure you know this is your court date. Now you're getting out on your own, but make sure you know that this is your court date because this is the consequence if you don't come back. And that's the part we're arriving at now.
Gotcha.
So what's your first order of business? Like if you are elected and the rioting and things is still going on, the protests is going on, like what would your first order of business be? Like say if you got in office today and with everything going on in Atlanta, what would Patrick Labat do?
And I've given this plenty thought, and I appreciate that. Right?
That's twice.
But we have to do things in good and proper order, as my mom would say. And what that means is, at the very latest, I become sheriff-elect, right? If there's a runoff, and hopefully we can avoid a runoff. You become sheriff-elect after the runoff, August 12th, and in an unusual circumstance, there's no Republican opposition, which means at that point you have longer to transition. I wouldn't become sheriff until January of 2021 because you got to get sworn in, right? If there was Republican opposition, you run until November, right? And then you transition. But in this case, the fortunate piece is we can start having those conversations with the county commission immediately. And where the sheriff's office has lacked is, in my opinion, representation. And what I mean is, as the face of the sheriff's office, we need to fight for our officers. We need to fight for better pay. We need to fight and for better recruitment and shorter time in recruitment, and really fight for our young folks that want to come into an environment of law enforcement and then fight for them. And what I mean is, when I started 30 years ago, the conversation was, well, you got to do your time first. You got to be seasoned first. You got to wait. Well, young folks today don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. And so, with respect to the protest, let me be clear. That is a tough position the city is in. Okay, and it's even tougher for me. And let me tell you why. Because, and you know this, Ronnie, I have two 25. We have a blended family. I have two 25-year-old daughters. Is that right? Yeah. And two 21-year-old young men. Right. And every day they leave the house, all right, I cringe because we don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
Right? And hell, I cringe.
Yeah.
I've been stopped more times than I can imagine as chief.
How does that feel, though, man? Come on,
It
man.
feels like when you get stopped. I just told somebody earlier, when you see those blue lights, as a black man,
Even if you didn't do nothing
it-
Even
wrong.
if you just
even if
driving
you're in
down
law
the street.
enforcement,
Booty hole get tight.
Booty hole is small.
you tighten
Lose
up
a
like that.
few inches. You like, nigga.
That's the best ab workout.
Yeah. White people can't wait till them to walk up to that window so they can curse you to hell. Ooh, I'm glad I got pulled over today.
I got some anger I need to let go.
Yeah.
But we have to teach our kids differently, right?
Yep.
And that is especially for my young men. Yes, sir. No, sir. But that's to everybody. Let me be clear. But we have to remind people the objective is to survive the stop.
Right.
You can't hold court on the side of the road.
Right.
You start holding court on the side of the road, we have more problems. Right. So I feel from that piece. There's a lot of anguish there. But I also feel from the officer's perspective because I know two of those guys that got charged. Right?
Oh, with the
with the protest.
Got you.
Right? That are going through that piece. And so, but I've also been on the front lines when we had the DNC when I first started, the protests that went along with that and the bombs that went along with that, Occupy Atlanta, as well as Black Lives Matter, right? And it's a different, intense environment out there. Atlanta will survive, right? We've been burned down once,
You're Phoenix.
right? Yeah. And the structure will survive. The question is, how do we heal?
Yeah.
And that's the big issue.
So
for
I'm
us.
gonna tell you why. I guess myself and others. I don't want to speak for everybody else, but we don't have. I guess we don't have any sympathy for officers in that manner because we see black people getting murdered over misdemeanors, and then you'll see a white person that just went into a church and killed 9 people,
Get
taken to
handcuffed
Burger
very
King,
nicely,
another white kid
gingerly.
killing somebody, and then making sure they got water. That's why we can't have the sympathy for the officers that go through something like pulling those kids out of those kids from Spelman and Morehouse out of the car where they're from. So that's what I'm saying. So that's what I would like. If I could talk to every police officer, that's what I would like them to know. We know there's good and bad, but let me tell you something. Me and Remo hanging out, I'm bad, he's good. I take Remo to drive that store, Remo's not going home either if you catch us.
Right.
Remo is going to jail as well. As good as he is, he's going to jail as well. So I cannot look at and say there's a good police officer if they're around bad police officers committing crimes and not stopping it.
So
that makes you a bad cop. That makes you not a bad person. That makes you a bad cop for real because you're not doing your job. You didn't stop a crime from being committed while you watched it.
So a couple things, and I absolutely agree with you, right? With George Floyd, right? All 4 of those officers need to be locked up.
Period.
All 4 of them need to be arrested, charged, and with murder.
Second degree or higher.
I make no bones
They
about it.
changed it to
Let me-
second degree, right?
Yeah,
Let
they
me
upgraded the charges.
The only thing I would ask is to let's change the word can't and try and figure out a way we can at least sit down and have a conversation. And the reason I say that is because there are things that we go through as black men growing up, nobody understands, right? Y'all agree?
Yeah.
If you don't, let me know. There's part of white America that'll never understand what you go through as a black man.
Period. Right.
There's part of white America that will never understand as a young black man walking through Macy's or Rich's at the time being followed, right? So if you
Yeah, dog.
You got a Richard story?
I got 2 Mason
South
stories.
Cab?
Yes.
Man, that oh my God, that shit, that shit made my made my heart palpitate a little bit, man.
Everybody relates to that, right?
Man, I hated that story.
So
man.
what I would say to you is if
We
you
was
never
stealing though. So
I wouldn't.
Don't say we.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't,
my
man.
people was. I ain't do shit.
Man, we
They
should
gave me some FUBU jerseys.
we
though.
should have sued Richards the way they treated me.
I agree.
For real.
But because you know that feeling and other people don't, right?
Right.
I'd ask you for a little compassion to understand where some of these police officers, how they feel, right? And then we come together and we teach and
Right.
we learn. That's all I say.
But
And from
yeah,
that
but
perspective.
still, again, it's just hard because like
Yeah, what he trying to say is fuck them. That's what we feel like.
Who?
Like right now at this point today.
Nah, my nigga, I'm from Los Angeles, bro. I've been on this for a long time. Like, obviously, it's worse in the South. But being in Los Angeles, you'll see your brother, you see older black men, barely older than you, if not you, getting face down just to go through your pockets and ask
Just
you your
to
name
go
and then
through your
move on.
pockets.
I've been seeing that a long time. Like, I was prepared since Rodney King. I've been super angry since Rodney King, and I can't say I hate the police. I just say I can't agree with how they let it go on and say there's a good and a bad cop. Because as a citizen, there's good and bad citizens. I seen a dude beating up his old lady, and I stopped it
Hell
because I
yeah,
felt
every
like
time.
it was wrong.
Every
if you're
time.
a cop and you see a man on the ground and you've been seeing what's going on all this time, you see a man on the ground and the police officer, it ain't about the man no more. The police officer is not going through proper procedure, and you don't even stop that. I can't say you good.
Take them to jail.
Right.
Go ahead and pick them up. Take them to jail.
And I get it, and I'm right there with you. But I'm saying let's have an opportunity to have that conversation.
Yeah, we need
Right?
it.
Because
Totally.
if we don't have the conversation, it never gets corrected.
Right.
But it also isn't equally as important, and that's why I'm running for office. Because you become the head of that department or that agency or that office, you have an immediate impact on what that looks like.
Period.
Right? And so you have an opportunity to create a diverse workforce. You know, under President Obama, they did 21st century policing. And part of that was how do we create a diverse workforce that looks like us at the higher levels so that we can hold people accountable.
Right.
And that's where we start. And that's where we start. And we start with that whole conversation of how do we heal. I'll give you a prime example. And most of y'all, I don't know how some of y'all got kids, how old they are, et cetera, but I go back to my 2 boys, right? They're 21. They're old enough to be employed and do the one thing that legally that nobody else can do, not even the president, and that is to become a police officer at 21 and have the legal authority to carry a weapon and take somebody's life, right? So then you bounce toward the fact that I know my boys at 21, and you want to take them and put them in the worst part of town,
High-pressure situation.
at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and expect them to perform. We got to do a better job of training. We got to do a better job.
And we're
Do
talking
you think
about
people people should police their neighborhoods?
I do. I think people need to be involved. But when I say police their neighborhood, they need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Partner with the community-oriented policing parts.
No, I think what he's asking is, do you think that police should police the neighborhoods that they live in.
Yeah.
I do. I think there's value in that.
Has to be.
There's value in being invested in your own neighborhood.
Right.
Wasn't that that was kind of like old school
That's
policing
what I
in the
was gonna
70s,
say.
right? Okay, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. I got stopped when I was 16. I was flying. I was over there on the beach. I was flying.
Yeah.
And but the cop that stopped me, the only question is, "Where's the fire? Right? What's
Right.
going on?" And I'm gonna tell your mom. Now, for me,
That's worse than jail.
Take me to jail. Please.
Real talk. Nah, that's real talk.
I'm grown. I got scared a little bit.
Right. Take me to jail.
My mama.
Take me
Yeah,
to jail.
for sure, for sure.
So the opportunity is there for us to redefine what that looks like so that we can engage in that. And part of that is, and I'll wrap this up because I know y'all busy.
Now we just want to make sure we get you out of here.
No,
on
I'm
time.
good.
Okay,
I'm
all
good.
right, gotcha.
But part of that is, and let me take you back to this. And remember, and we started doing this with some of the pastors at the PD and then certainly corrections and getting them involved and how we show them what goes on a daily basis. You remember in Men in Black, the first one, when they took Will Smith in there and he shot the little girl, right? They were going through the training.
Yeah.
So when you take citizens into and so once I become sheriff, I promise you, you'll be the first person we could come and do this training with.
All right, bet.
Give you a weapon, right? Put you in a high pressure situation, just like you said, and see how you perform.
Right.
Right. More than likely, you shoot everybody in there.
Yeah, but hold on. Do they have guns too?
And the key is, they'll be shooting back.
All right.
Right?
That makes it different.
So they do have, right, but if they don't have a gun, they got a set of school books in their hands. What does that look like? Right? So for us, it's about exposure. So if you know that.
Training.
And training, but now it's a different conversation when we come sit in this room.
Right. But I also don't have a problem. I don't think I've ever posted or protested an officer shooting someone with a gun. I think I just moved past those stories. But it's every time that it's in someone in an unarmed situation. So if you bring me in there and put me in front of an unarmed person, I can see if I can get him down without using the gun. I want to do that training. Let me go up against a couple of your officers with that training, see if I can't put them down.
MMA skills.
You will make my year. I promise to God you'll make my year.
We'll be coming back every week. We can come back next
I
week.
come back. I got some more aggression I need.
Yeah.
Program where we can body slam police every week.
Or at least, nah, for real. I ain't opposed.
So, we got one more question for you, and then
No worries.
Nah, but I do appreciate that, because like training, and because we were talking about this the other day, you know, people that got a real estate license, lawyers and stuff, they got to go every 2 years to re-up on their training. So why not people that can take someone's life? So
No, we do. Now, let me be clear. There's the state requires that you have what's called in-service training every year, right?
It's yearly,
Used to
okay.
do- and so now, since some of these fatalities, the state has done a good job of increasing that. So every year you got to have the use of deadly force. right?
Okay.
We've added sensitivity classes,
Got
crisis
to.
intervention. So when you run across someone that has a mental issue, right, you can do that. So the state has done.
about
a
like
really good
conflict
job.
resolution, that's kind of the same.
All
as-
of that,
it's
de-escalation,
the same thing.
right.
All right, yeah, that's what we
Since
need.
I have a son on the spectrum, and I can't even sleep at night because
He tall.
my kids are tall. And,
Right.
and when he's 16 and maybe he can't discern between
He gonna be
something
a grown man
and
looking.
he gonna look like a grown man. And
Right.
if a cop don't know that he's on the
Right.
spectrum, he might treat him like a criminal. And it's like, what can I do? So it's like,
That's the
I
training.
need you to win. So motherfuckers that look like us
Right.
are in position.
Can have
So
that
it's like it's
conversation,
not for us. It's for the kids. It's for people with mental
People
health
can't help
issues.
themselves. Like I feel like I can take care of myself, but a lot of people
Right,
cannot.
right.
Our job is to protect those that can.
Protect and serve, right.
And I think that is the platform from which we move forward and we catapult forward. And you see it around the country. Now, let's not just talk about the protests and people burning and rioting and looting in cities. You see sheriffs, you see police chiefs really joining these peaceful protests and saying, look, I understand, and I understand people want to be heard. The biggest problem we have is we teach our kids to ask why and then get mad when they ask why.
Right.
We got to do a better job. We got to do a better job.
Sure.
So you said you're running against the incumbent, Ted Jackson, right? What would you say are the primary differences between you all's platforms?
Well, I'd tell you that he's been given 12 years to get it right, and we can do it inside 6 months. And that is to change the focus of the sheriff's office. We got to be more customer service friendly.
Yes.
Right?
Period.
And I got a proven track record of doing this. we turned the city jail from a liability into an asset. And then the other thing is you got to care. We have a South Fulton annex that a federal judge says that there are ladies out there that hadn't had a shower in a month or two.
Come on now.
Right?
That's inhumane, bro.
It is absolutely inhumane. And so you got to care. So it was nothing for my staff. As a matter of fact, I won't say they got anxious, but I'd get up at 2, 3 in the morning and go down to the jail. Right? I want to see how people are being treated.
Right.
We have to be very humane about what we do. And so the difference is, and I tell folks all the time, I'm present, I'm active, engaged, I want to be held accountable, I want to be transparent about what we do, but equally as important is I got 10 years of proven track record of doing all of that. Our Fulton County health score is a perfect 100 over 10 years. Meaning that it's cleaner inside that jail than most places, most restaurants that people eat at.
You say you
Right?
go eat there sometimes. You go have the food.
Look, I eat because I eat what I expect my officers to be able to have access to, right? Whether they want to eat there or not. We instituted we created an entire cafe, if you will, right, just for our officers, and so the opportunity is there. And it's one of those things, when you know better, you got to do better, right? And then it's time to hold the sheriff accountable. I would absolutely be ashamed to be the sheriff right now and watch Sheriff Hill and his personnel come into my county in an emergent situation on Friday night and not have my teams ready, engaged, and
So
to help.
that must be the issue then, because the police are agitating these situations in most places, so they're not even really just
Prepared.
from Fulton in general.
Well, from the perspective of the protests or from
So a lot of the
Fulton County's
protests,
perspective?
especially in Atlanta, from the people I know, there's actually a gentleman
Right.
sitting behind you that was there in the middle of it. You know, you can plainly see that once it got to a certain point, the police or whoever was the police force there were trying to get it started, whatever it was, get you off the way, and by any means necessary. That's rubber bullets, that's tear gas, and they're like, well, they're throwing bottles and stuff. That doesn't happen. That is a recourse from the actual tear gas. And I seen a young lady get pushed down by a bike officer, like just with the bike, like took the bike and pushed the young lady down. So it's like with all that happening, what would you say would be like? My question was, is everybody in there from the same? I mean, from that police force, or are they coming from all over and just
Well,
not
they're
caring?
coming from all over, but you let Atlanta take the lead. But the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer in the county. So in Fulton County, there are 15 cities, 15 municipalities, and the sheriff needs to set the tone. And so what I meant by that statement is the sheriff showing up at 11 and 12 o'clock at night is really just embarrassing more than anything else. When you have a situation where you need backup, right, and you have sheriffs from outside the city and outside of the county doing a better job than our own, right? We have to do a better job of preparing, right? If we prepare better, then some of those things don't happen.
Gotcha.
All right? And we have to do a better job of engaging our community.
Yes, sir.
And that's where we're starting to heal, and we're starting to get that. Look, I'll be out with Councilmember Brown tomorrow at a peaceful protest.
Where you gonna be?
All right? MLK.
MLK. All right, perfect.
We'll pull
10
up.
o'clock.
10 o'clock. All right.
So,
We'll pull up.
you know, I'd
Thank
love
you,
to be
man.
joined.
Yeah. Oh, come on. I had one more question about the jail. You remember you was like Rice Street. What you needed them to help with that? You was like, you got Rice Street is terrible.
Oh yeah, Rice Street is fucked up. I mean, yeah, Rice Street is one of the worst places on earth.
It is.
Yeah, that shit scared Gucci Mane.
I mean,
That's where he came up with Bird. Like Bird.
like, I mean, I know. I mean, of course, there's been several sheriffs over my lifetime. I've been in Atlanta for 37 years. But I know I've heard horror stories. I have been blessed. I've spent a couple hours in Rice Street on some very petty stuff. But I've known
make it plain.
people to go in there and get lost. Like literally,
I was gonna ask about that shit.
like you can't find them.
Right.
Like you're trying to locate a
on in.
relative to bond them out, and you call the jail, and they don't know where they are.
And that is absolutely absurd. That means that
Absurd.
people aren't being held accountable.
Right.
That means that the people in charge don't care enough. And I say that because when I first started, everybody that was arrested in Atlanta came through Atlanta first before they went to the county.
Right.
Right? And at that point, we had 800, 900, 1,200 people, depending on the week. We re-engineered, and I was given the opportunity to spearhead this program, re-engineered a program that allowed us to be very confident and had one of the best jail systems in the country, which means from the moment you hit our door, we knew where you were, which gave us the ability to let your loved ones know where you are.
Right.
To pick up the phone, call down to the Fulton County Jail, and someone tell you, it's going to take me an hour to tell you where they are.
To tell you if they even in here.
Yeah, like, they be like, shit, goddamn. Name again?
Yeah, shift change at 3 o'clock. Call back at 4.
Right. But what we were able to do was change that dynamic, and it starts with customer service. And what I remind people is, look, I'm from here, right? I was one bad move away from being that person that was incarcerated.
Come on
right?
now,
One bad choice from that. But some of my friends were. But every time someone gets locked up, we lock up mama and them, uncle and them, sister and them, brother and them, auntie and them, and we have to be forward thinking enough to know that when that phone rings, that person on the other side may not be, they're a victim too.
Right.
And a lot of times they're a victim of the person that's in jail. Because when you talk to a young lady or a mama, and she says, my son's locked up again, right? At that point, it's your obligation. And what happens is my team hates for me to, I'll go sit at the front counter and answer the phone, right? Or I will call in and answer the phone to see how you doing your job.
Right.
And I literally have, I won't say, let me say the best way to put
Get it right.
They weren't terminated, but I have, people have had some very severe consequences for not being polite, not being customer service friendly, right? And we have to focus on that. So that's that 6-month program I'm talking about, right? We can grasp hold of this ship
Etiquette
and
training.
turn it around. Absolutely, absolutely. Because people on the other end of that care about somebody. If they didn't care, they wouldn't have called. Right? If they didn't need the information, they wouldn't have called.
Right.
We got lawyers now. James, it'll take 4 hours to go see a client, right? Or at shift change, you get locked in there.
Let me tell you,
I got my charges dropped. I got locked up on Martin Luther King Day. He got all my shit dropped.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But I say that to say we got to do a better job with customer service.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And remember, and this is what I would tell anybody that worked for me. If someone asks you a question, you answer the question. If they ask you the question 999 more times, you answer the question 999 more times. Because what we don't see a lot is those individuals that don't get locked up every day. I'm not talking about career criminals.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That may be new for them. And I'll give you the best quote of the day. I had a friend that called, and he said, my son's not at your jail, he's at Rice Street. And I want to leave him there to teach him a lesson.
No, you don't.
That ain't what you want.
No, you're not in
That
there.
ain't what you want.
No, sir.
That ain't what you want.
Because he might not make it out.
That's right.
That's what I mean.
But we got to change that.
Yeah.
We got to change that. So there are some things and protocols we can put in place immediately to make a difference. And let me be clear. I got to be absolutely clear. There are very, very good people and staff at Fulton County Sheriff's Office. They're just starving for leadership. Yeah. And with the right leadership, we can change all this. Change this dynamic.
Hopefully you are the one, brother.
Sir, appreciate
Get you up through there, man.
Slide you over to the other place, man.
More Than Culture is the brand. This is the podcast. Kamal the Secret Genius, Remo Ride, Tyler Chronicles, Ronnie Jordan, special guest Patrick Labat, Fulton County Sheriff. We out.
Yes, and
June 9th. Vote, 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 vote.
Thank you, man.
No,